A warm good morning to all of you. I'm immensely pleased to welcome you all to the online platform of Nandalal Barghwai Chetty College, Dibrugarh, India, on this auspicious occasion of the international webinar on a very relevant topic of the hour, post-pandemic higher education, approaches and way forward. Organized by IQAC and Department of Education, Nandalal Barghwai City College, Dibrugarh, Assam, and Masbat College, Udalguri, Assam, in collaboration with the Mirror, the peer-reviewed research journal of history, Sinamara College, Jorhat, Assam, India. We are really very happy to announce it that 4,720 participants from around 25 different countries of the world are attending the international webinar, and the honorable dignitaries from 5 different internationally reputed universities and from 4 different countries of the world, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and New Zealand, are participating in the webinar to add to the splendor of the occasion and to foster a new intellectual and academic input. At the very onset, I would like to take the opportunity to convey our heartiest welcome to our esteemed dignitary invited as the keynote speaker, esteemed Professor Dilwar Hossain Shah, the eminent Professor of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, who made us obliged by accepting our invitation as the keynote speaker. Our deep sense of gratitude to you, sir, for aiding to the splendor of the occasion, and our heartiest welcome to you, sir. My honor and heartiest Professor Vinod Shah, Professor of Economics Education, Center Department of Education, Tribhuvan University. We are really grateful to you, sir, because you have graced the occasion. Welcome, sir. We would like to take the privilege to convey our heartiest welcome to Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam, the Head, Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Marie College, University of Delhi, New Delhi, India. Our sincere respect and welcome to you, Madam. Our heartiest welcome to the resource person, Mr. Isan Jayabardhan Shah, the Senior Research Fellow, New Zealand. We are really glad and thankful to you, sir, for being a vital part of the webinar as a resource. Our deep sense of thankfulness and welcome to you, sir. I'm immensely pleased to take the opportunity to welcome you all, dear participants, joining from 21 different countries of the world: England, Iran, Cambodia, Taiwan, Canada, Philippines, Bangladesh, Yemen, Oman, Nigeria, Norway, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, South Africa, France, Nepal, India, and others from other countries. We are heartily thankful to all of you, dear participants, for being the most significant part of the international webinar. Our thankfulness and heartiest welcome to all of you, dear participants. Now, we would like to proceed to the main agenda. I would like to request Dr. Sanjeevananda Barghwai Shah, the principal and chairperson of the organizing committee, Nandalal Barghwai Chetty College, Dibrugarh, to deliver his welcome address. Please, sir.
Good morning. A very good morning to everyone. At the outset, it is a great pleasure to welcome our dear and most valued participants hailing from different parts of India and abroad to this international webinar on the topic post-pandemic education approach and way forward, organized by the IQAC and the Department of Education, Nandalal Barghwai City College, Dibrugarh, Assam, and Masbat College, Udalguri, Assam, in collaboration with the Mirror, a peer-reviewed research journal of history, Sinamara College, Jorhat. I convey my sincere regards and honor to Professor Dilwar Hossain, who is a professor of international relations, social science, and Director of East Asia Study Center, University of Dhaka, for his kind consent to deliver the keynote address on the webinar. I express my regards and honor to our resource persons, Vinay Kumar Kushia, Professor of Economics Education, Tribhuvan University, Kirtipur, Kathmandu, Nepal. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj Madam, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Medical University of Delhi, and Mr. Ishan Jayabardhane, who is a Senior Fellow, a Research Fellow from New Zealand. I also take the opportunity to welcome to host Principal of Assam, to Dynamic Principal of Masbat College, Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sharma sir, and Sinapura College Principal, Dr. Anjan Kumar Soikia, and respected participants, including 30 principals of reputed colleges, 2072 assistant professors from different colleges, 624 professors from different universities, and 146 research scholars, advocate, bankers, students in this webinar. The theme of the webinar is very far interesting and artistic implications. And the learned scholars of this international webinar will raise the issue on the basis of their observation. I'm sure that you will be enriched with knowledge at the end of the webinar. I wish the international webinar will be successful in reaching its goal. Lastly, I welcome you once again to this webinar and hope you will have a great academic session ahead. With sincere gratitude and thanks to everybody, I hereby wind up the formal address of welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Principal Sir. Now, I would like to request the Principal Sir, Dr. Pradeep Sharma Sir, to welcome our participants and resource persons.
Okay, thank you, Marcy.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Today's topic, post-pandemic higher education, approaches and way forward. Organized jointly by IQAC, Department of Education, Nandalal Borgohai City College, Dibrugarh, and Department of Education, Masbat College, Udalguri BTD, Assam, India. In collaboration with Mirror, Sinamora College, Jorhat.
Thank you, sir. Pradeep Sharma sir, thank you. Maybe some technical difficulty, so I would like to proceed to the next agenda. The next agenda is the keynote address. We are really very glad that a very eminent academician, a highly resourceful personality of Dhaka University, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Professor Dilwar Hossain sir is with us as the keynote speaker of the international webinar. Professor Dilwar Hossain sir is the Professor of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and concurrently the Director of the East Asia Center, University of Dhaka, He has an excellent academic career. He was desk chair of the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka during 2009 to 12. He was the project director to a program on innovation and performance-based teaching and learning in international relations funded by the World Bank of Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project and the University Grants Commission of Bangladesh during 2011 to 13. He also served as the director of the IQAC subcommittee at the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. He earned his Bachelor of Social Science honors and Master Science. He did his second master degree in Asia Pacific International Relations from International University of Japan. Japan as an ASEAN Development Bank scholar in 2001. Dr. Dilwar Hussain Sir earned his PhD in Global and Intercultural Studies from Ferris University of Yokohama, Japan, and Mongbukha Gukso scholar, regional cooperation, peace and conflict management, civil society and human security areas studies, with special reference to South Asia, East Asia and Japan. Dr. Dilwar Hussain Sir authored books on COVID-19 global pandemic and aspects of human security in South Asia, implications and way forward, globalization and new relations, regionalism in South Asia, issues and dynamics, partisan and conflict, the Chittagong Hill Tracks, Bangladesh, contribution sectors in the books and articles in the journals, the dynamics of Bangladesh-India relation, from the paradigm shift to the challenges era, in Amit Ranjan, India in South Asia, challenges and management, Springer Nature, Singapore, unfolding Bangladesh-India maritime connectivity in the Bay of Bengal region, a Bangladesh perspective journal of India Ocean region, Taylor of Francis 2019 co-author, transmission of India interdependence, India and neighbors, India Council of World Affairs, New Delhi 2015, Bangladesh and International Relations 2012 to 13, the flight of the stateless Rohingya response to the State Society of International Community, the University of Press Limited, Dhaka 2010, conflict management mechanism and the challenges of peace, island share resources, mobilization, changes of livelihood and vulnerable people in Bangladesh, social indications research, October 2013, the rise of civil society in South Asian implications for regional cooperation, Press Journal of ASEAN Pacific, development, violence, nexus, the politics, resistance movement in Bangladesh, social science review, South Asia Japan relation, the emerging regional perspective, based journal. He also completed research projects on the Rohingya issue, the CHT conflict and South Asia regional cooperation. Dr. Dilwar Hussain Sir is actively engaged in teaching, consultancy, research, and community services in the University of Dhaka and beyond. Now, I consider it as a great honor for me to invite Honorable Professor Dilwar Hussain Shah to deliver his keynote address. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you very much, Manashi, for your very generous introduction.
Thank you. Thank you.
And good morning to everyone, particularly the distinguished panel members and also very dear participants. I could understand it is hugely participated by academics and also by students. I think I mean this is a huge event which has enormous importance for everybody. I mean in this region and beyond. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this very, very important interest webinar and also to organize the webinar on such an important topic, a very timely topic, because we all know what we are facing today. I mean, under the global pandemic of COVID-19. So the topic of today that we are going to, deliver and in fact discuss and learn from each other is post-pandemic higher education approaches and way forward. So as such, the topic is very broad and very comprehensive, but also very, very important. So I don't know, I mean, how much I can actually address some of the fundamental and vital issues related to this topic, but I'll try to give my own perspective, and of course in a very broad way, in a very general way. So when we talk about higher education, of course this is very, very important, and I have come across one statement by scholars at risk. The group of people who are a group, and they in one of their studies observed that healthy higher education communities matter enormously because they are engines of knowledge production, discovery, innovation, skills development, cultural preservation, and national progress. So we know the importance of higher education, for that matter, tertiary education, and also, I mean, higher education communities must be grounded in core values like equitable access, accountability, academic freedom, institutional autonomy, and social responsibility. So higher education, we all know, I mean, how important it is for India, for Bangladesh, for South Asia, and for the entire humanity. And also, if we see the picture, the scenario of higher education in the world, there is a very interesting information about higher education. In today's world, higher education involves 2.2 trillion US dollar market. So if we consider higher education as an arena where actually we of course we gather knowledge, we learn different skills, but it is also a market in today's world, and that involves more than 2.2 trillion US dollar. So it's a huge arena from economic perspective also. And just for the convenience of my discussion, I'll try to focus as part of introduction on few aspects. Number one, just very briefly about the philosophy of education, and then I'll try to locate the relations between national level, regional level, and global levels when we talk about higher education. And then I'll try to briefly say about the growth and spread of higher education, and then the current state of higher education and some major dimensions that we see today about higher education. And then we'll be coming to the important point that we are really concerned about, that is the COVID-19 global pandemic, how it has its impact on higher education, and what are the changes and continuity in the case of higher education when we talk about the impact of COVID-19 global pandemic. And of course, then we'll try to see the future in terms of looking ahead or way forward, or we'll try to also focus on some recommendations. So education, definitely, whether it is higher education or education at any level, I mean, from the elementary to higher education, I mean, it involves some sort of philosophy, and we are all aware of it. And maybe, I mean, this is organized by very, very good institutions, and the organizers, the teachers and professors from different countries. We all have some idea about philosophy, but what I understand, and this is not new, but we see, I mean, for higher education or for education as such, we can see that broadly three dimensions of our philosophical foundation behind higher education. One is, of course, I mean, very Eastern philosophy that has been developed and that has grown in our soil, in our part of the world, I mean, in South Asia or in the subcontinent. and also other parts of Asia, Africa, or Latin America, particularly Asia. So we can see the Oriental understanding of philosophy, or Eastern or Indian, where actually people are the center and people are the main focus. So the historically, for 1,000 years, education is grounded in our part of the world on normative aspects, on the aspects of ethics, aspects of the qualities that people need to actually learn through different training, different methods of or institutions of education. So it is more or less very normative and very people centric. And also because of colonialism, imperialism, and also global influence, and then we became exposed to modern education, which was basically developed in the West. So the Oriental understanding of education, and then of course what we see, the Western understanding of education, which was once very traditional and more or less people-centric. But at some point of time, we know because of industrial revolution, because of the growth of capitalism in the Western world, and because of the rise of modern nation state in the West, particularly after the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. So we saw that the traditional foundation of Western education changed, and they became modern and secular. And but what is important to Western education for long, based on modern, meaning education to use for maximizing the power of the state. Education was used for the market. So market and state became very important for the Western world. And of course they used huge kind of scope through science and technology, and also to develop rationality, to develop logic, and their time of Renaissance or Reformation contributed to the rise of science and technology. But all were actually philosophically used for maximizing the power of the empire, power of the state. And of course, and of course the gradually actually power of the market, and what we see today very strongly. But now in the Western world, we can see also education has become higher education has become postmodern. So even the Western world is actually, they are trying to break away. They are trying to actually shift from their modern foundation of education. So they are now trying to be postmodern. And they are now challenging the state. They are now challenging the market dominance. So between these two orientations of education or higher education, and now I see what we see today is a sort of global higher education. It's a global orientation is very strong in today's world, where of course there is a dominance of Western philosophy. At the same time, there is a rise of the East, the rise of the ideas from the East, from even from our part of the world, from South Asia, from India, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka or Nepal, are also very important. So we can see now today the philosophy of education is based on mixed orientation. And then as a student or as an academic, we could see, when we think about higher education, we can see the crisis of philosophy, or even one can say whether there is any philosophy at all. So we can have this question, since I have to cover a lot of issues. So this is what I would like to just focus on philosophy, on education. And in today's world, in 2020, when we see the global reality, we can see whether education has a philosophy at all. But of course, as part of South Asia, and as part of the tradition that has been strongly promoted by Mahatma Gandhi or Rabindranath Tagore, definitely we have a very strong tradition. And I would like to share with you one statement that helps us to understand philosophy of education what Rabindranath Tagore spoke in Shantiniketan in 1963 as in Vishwa Bharati. I mean, he told in that speech, in every nation of the world, education is intimately related to the people. For us, modern education has only trained employees, doctors, advocates, and magistrates, etc. This education has not touched the farmers, the potters, the artisans. No other educated society faced this kind of disaster. If we have to have a university, it should, from the very beginning, create the knowledge base of the country's economy, agriculture, health, and all other subjects related to the country and the immediate village community, because the university can be the nerve center of the country. So this is a very strong root of our philosophy and Eastern philosophy or South Asian philosophy, and I think this is still very, very relevant. So this helps us to also to think about I mean, philosophy of higher education in a different way. And as I have seen the vision and mission of the these NBC college, I mean, this college as organizing this seminar, I have found that they have very nicely mentioned some vision and mission of this college, like to offer educational opportunities for all and all-round development of the students as well as teachers, promote higher education opportunity, and particularly promoting education for all people, all people of all ages, and to take the education to the doorsteps of the learners. So we can see some philosophy also in the vision and mission of this particular college. But broadly, what I mentioned about philosophy, which is actually is a general kind of reality. And then if we want to locate higher education, definitely we see different levels. Higher education in India, higher education in South Asia, or higher education at the global level on the Western world, of course, they're different. But what we see today, there is enormous importance of tertiary education or higher education, and there is a very strong linkage between national, regional, and global levels of higher education. And of course, there is geographical variations in higher education. I mean, higher education in New Zealand or in Australia or Canada definitely is different from higher education in Bangladesh or Nepal or India or even China or Japan. And also the temporal factors are also very different for higher education when we think about different region, different state, and the world. And of course, when we talk about growth and spread of higher education, definitely the number of universities or colleges offering degrees have increased. I mean, exponentially. It's enormously increased. Number of disciplines increased. I mean, if I talk about Dhaka University, which is the oldest one in Bangladesh, it was established in 1921. It started with just three departments and then the 5 departments in 1921-22, and now Dhaka University has 84 disciplines, 84 departments, and apart from this we have several institutes offering different degree programs. So from just 3 to 5 to 84 disciplines of University of Dhaka in about 100 years. So we can see the spread, the growth of a country known as a developing country or a least developed country in South Asia. So we can see the global picture. Where we see definitely in the case of India, it is a huge expansion, and we have seen how academic programs have increased, and also the growth and spread of higher education has been influenced by the global changes. And of course, the changes broadly we understand in terms of during the Cold War period, the higher education was a different type. And then with the end of the Cold War, it has become more globalized and internationalized. And now we can see, of course, it is globalization is continuing, but we have different aspects in the world. We can see how, I mean, post 9/11 situations, the importance of terrorism as a threat to security, and also different countries are involved in rivalry or in conflict, and we can see the return of the Cold War again. I mean, this kind of realities is continuing. And just to understand that expansion, of course, I mentioned about Dhaka University in terms of departments or the programs. Even in terms of the number of universities in Bangladesh, it was just say in 1947, it was in East Pakistan or East Bengal, it was only one university that we had after the following the decolonization or independence of or partition of India. And in 1972, the year after our independence, we had only 6 universities, and now we have 152 universities in 2020. In India, I have come across in 1947, India had only 20 universities, and now India up to February 2020, India has 935 universities. So we can see the expansion, and also expansion in terms of the population who completed tertiary education. We can see huge expansion in from the USA to South Africa. But here I have some data to share. I mean, in India, the figure is 4.5% people of population who have completed tertiary education. In Bangladesh, it is 2.28. In USA, it is 26.76. But if we see the country like South Africa, it is only 0.32%. And all entire Africa, the rate of the percentage of population completed tertiary education is less than 1%. So we can see that the differences in different regions in the world in terms of access to higher education. So now coming to the current state of higher education and the major aspects. So first of all, what we could see, there is an unprecedented growth of tertiary education. There is no doubt over the last 50 years and even last 10 years, huge expansion. And we can see from our region, I mean, every country in South Asia has experienced the expansion of number of colleges, number of universities. So the growth is quite unprecedented. And then, of course, I mean, what we see in today's education, higher education, is a huge market orientation. And also technology orientation is another feature, another dimension of current state of higher education in the world. So market orientation, technology orientation, and we can see the diversity in teaching methods. I mean, when we talk about pedagogy, we can see there is a diversity, although in South Asia, we are still sort of confined to traditional method of teaching. But we can see that the diversity is emerging. And then, of course, I mean, for long, we can see higher education has been highly interdisciplinary. Higher education has been multidisciplinary. And even now, people talk about post-disciplinary higher education or post-disciplinary education. And then, of course, we must emphasize some other dimensions of higher education in today's world. That is the impact of globalization, particularly after the end of the Cold War and since the early 90s, globalization has influenced every aspect of human life or society, for good or for bad. I mean, but this has also impact on higher education, particularly that has increased the number of enrollment, number of foreign students, number of mobility of students across the nations, across the border. So globalization is very important dimension of today's education. And even what we are doing here in the name of interest webinar, I mean, it is also a product of sort of globalization, because through technology we have been connected in one platform and are organized by an NLBC college, and students from different countries and academics from different countries have joined in one initiative. So this is sort of the impact of globalization. And then a major debate that we see from our experience of working the World Bank's HECE project or IQAC, the debate between quantity and quality. So higher education has been a subject to the quantity or quality debate. that we can see the expansion of disciplines, expansion of institutions, expansions of academic programs, expansion of enrollment, students, and everything. But is it actually quantity that has been become the reality, or that we have got, or the quality? So quality is a major issue of higher education in today's world, and particularly in the developing world, and of course in South Asia. But it is also a global issue. I mean, even quality in the Western institutions is also in deep crisis. And if we follow the debate in the United States and other countries, particularly during the elections, we can see how they emphasize the problem of higher education, problem of education in their societies in terms of quality. And we can recall the debate during Obama's election in 2008. Education was a major issue of debate between the two parties, Republican and the Democrat. So quantity and versus quality is an important issue. And then a very important aspect of current level of higher education is privatization of education. And this is a reality, and this privatization of education has its merits and demerits, and this is important. And then knowledge society, which is very, very important in when we talk about education, when we talk about development, knowledge society is very important. And now coming to important point that we want to highlight in today's seminar or webinar, that is the COVID-19 global pandemic and its impact. So when we talk about COVID-19, I think people know about this because the way we are suffering from this particular virus, and it is almost sort of household kind of threat. And unfortunately, the world has lost more than 6,18,000 people. And South Asia, we know, I mean, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan have more than 15 lakh or 1.5 million people have infected by COVID. And all around the world, what I see, according to John Hopkinson's data, university data, that more than 15 million people are affected in the world by COVID-19. And after 1922 Spanish flu attack, and this is the second one where actually the world has experienced such kind of pandemic, global pandemic. So this has enormous impact on the world and on South Asia, on India, or on Bangladesh, on South Asia. So whether we talk about economy, society, education, culture, it is a huge impact. And that's why people talk about new normal. So what we are doing today is a part of new normal, although new normal also has been criticized by some. But it is true that we are trying to adjust, we are trying to cope with a new reality, and it is because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. And the impact of this pandemic on higher education is enormous, because what we see today, the closures of campus, the shutdown of academic institutions, and we can see the change of pedagogy, teaching methods from offline to online, and the challenges behind it, and all are struggling how to actually deal with this online kind of teaching method. And there is a huge health issue, health problems for students, for academics, and it is coming both as a physical threat to people, because people are suffering. And also the mental health of students is also very important. Psychological health is also very important. And COVID has this pandemic has enormously actually influenced our life. Of course, from negative point of view, people are facing traumas, facing alienation, facing the problems of this psychology. And then economic crisis is huge, because it is not only national level where actually GDP growth has been fallen, and different development programs have been disrupted, but academic institutions have suffered a lot. And both public and private academic institutions suffering, and particularly students, they are suffering from dislocation. They are suffering from disruptions, and I can see as a teacher of the University of Dhaka how my students. Dhaka University has about 40,000 students, and they have gone to their home, and how they are actually facing the problems to cope with some online education, at the same time maintaining their bread and their food and other things, and also we can see the shrinking of resources is a huge impact of the pandemic on higher education or education. And World Bank has studied on the impact of particularly this pandemic on tertiary education students, and they have shown that almost all the regions in the world, East Asia and the Pacific, Europe and Central Asia, Latin America and Caribbean, Middle East and North Africa, North America, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, everywhere. Somewhere it is 100%, somewhere it is 98%, somewhere 97% sort of disruption, and it is all over the world. It is 99% students they are facing the disruption, and the number of students who are facing at tertiary level the problems, it is about 22 crore. In fact, 22 it is 222 million students at tertiary level are facing this problem. And it is also a problem not only for the developing countries, it is also a problem for the high income countries, upper middle income countries, and lower middle income countries, and also low income countries. And to understand the challenges because of COVID, I can refer to again the study done by World Bank, and they have identified both short-term challenges and long-term challenges that we can understand as the participants in this webinar, and also our distinguished panelists. They can also understand that how institutional disruption is taking place, how staff, faculty members and students are facing health problems, and there is a mass student displacements from their living places, from even some livelihoods, and also the problem with instructional operations, the research facilities, and curtailing international mobility of students who have gone their home countries. They cannot return their universities, who have gone to their villages. They cannot come, and they have been forced to go there. And also there has been temporary sort of layoff of staff and faculty members. Particularly this is happening for school level, college level, and in different countries. And equity implication is very high in this situation. But long-term challenges are also very, very, very significant. And this is what actually we need to focus. And what we see that there is an increased level of inequity or inequality in access and retention. Because of this pandemic, different institutions will suffer economically, will suffer from different aspects. So whether they can cope with, they can come back. So it is going to be a huge challenge for them. And there is a reality that we can see that reduced public funding for higher education and reduced private funding for higher education, because the parents cannot afford tuitions and other fees for their children. So this is going to be a huge problem. And some programs or some institutions might face permanent closures. And also, programs might go online or remote platform, and that demands different. And internal mobility has been reduced. Global mobility will be reduced further. And higher education's contribution to local and national civic communities will be reduced. This is a serious concern in the post pandemic situation. And then the research facilities will be reduced, and then there will be loss of research, and research, particularly collaborative research, will be difficult. So these will have a huge impact, and for this actually we can see some changes, like we have to search for new knowledge in this post pandemic new normal life, and we have to think about the pedagogy of our academic programs, and of course we can see the debate on how much we focus on online, how much we'll focus on offline or face-to-face teaching method. But one thing for sure, the major change is growing dependence on digitalization, and we have to depend more and more on technology. And then it will create a challenge how actually we can use technology for higher education, so that it can help us philosophically, normatively, at the same time also for our growth and development. And also digital divide is becoming more a concern for higher education, because we know, there is a digital divide already, and now it is going to be more, because as more people are going to depend on digital devices, then people who are have-nots in digital capacity, they will face a huge problem. And in terms of continuity, what I see that, of course, the philosophy of education will continue, whatever is the philosophy that we want to follow. And I would also emphasize the importance of face-to-face education. It cannot be replaced. It is really important, and it has to be salvaged, or it has to be focused in our new planning or new policy. And market dominance will continue, and this is a reality. And also internationalization and global mobility will continue in different ways. Of course, they will face disruption and problems, but this is going to continue. Universities cannot shut down for global students or foreign students, not only for philosophical reason or for global purpose, also for market reason, or for funding reason. It is difficult. So if we see the future, of course we can think about the increasing use of digitalization, and redirecting of the allocation to new knowledge. And we have to deal with what we see in today's world. There is a crisis of global humanity, and also we may focus more on indigenous knowledge which is based on our own culture, own traditions. It's very important. And there is need for incorporating normative issues. Even during the COVID, we have seen how people have become very selfish, or people have become so cruel. Many people left their parents because of COVID-19, or even parents left their children. This kind of situation happened. I can say from the experience of different countries. But of course, there has been very sort of positive aspect of people's coming to help others. This has been also very significant. But we can also see how moral crisis, how the crisis of normative education has changed our mindset also. So I think what I want to emphasize as the recommendations, we must consider higher education in such a way, particularly for the government. I would say there should be emphasis on the policy which will not contribute to reduce the funding to higher education, to reduce funding for research, and rather there is a need for increasing fund to higher education, to empower institutions for new methods in teaching, new methods in learning, And particularly, we know, I mean, there will be more focus on new knowledge, and new knowledge should need more kind of more resources. And also but there is also the state and the government should also focus on the problems that we face today for continuing higher education, and also maintaining the access, maintaining the quality, maintaining the level of availability of education, for which actually the government should support the different institutions. And we also need to understand the situation, and for which actually we focus on adaptation and innovation. And this adaptation and innovation will come through, of course, through quality, and through taking new initiatives, so that this cannot be, I mean, higher education cannot be the victim of resource constraint that has been created because of COVID-19, by the decline of GDP growth rate, and also the deficit of resources. Because in South Asia, unfortunately, higher education has been very neglected. If we consider the spending of the government as percentage of GDP, almost in every South Asian countries, and maybe India or Sri Lanka are doing better, but almost all the countries are not in good shape when it is a matter to allocate state funding to education, from elementary to higher education. So there is a need for increasing, and particularly COVID is also a challenge of knowledge, because we are talking about vaccine, and we are talking about how we can actually face COVID medically and scientifically. So education becomes very important. And also, finally, I would emphasize the issue of inclusion, issue of equity, and also the issue of the political commitment by the state to refocus and to continue, and also to rather increase resources and support the institutions, and also the civil society and other actors have the role to support higher education. And I think, as part of conclusion, what I think that as I mentioned in the beginning, that we need to reinvent the normative dimension of higher education. We need to change our mindset about education. There is too much market orientation, too much skill orientation, too much we focus on growth through education. But education is not just means for the state. Education is a means for the people to change their to change their mindset from narrow thinking to broad thinking, secular thinking, to cosmopolitan thinking, and to focus on human beings. Human security, human development is very important. And of course, imparting quality education, raising standards of education is very important. And we can see there should be a blended education, and we need to reorganize programs, academic programs in different universities and colleges of higher education. And through education, what I would like to emphasize finally, I mean, we need to see this crisis as actually it's a temporary crisis. It may continue for some more months, and its impact might be huge and may continue for 2-3 years. But the point is that if we see the future beyond 5 years, actually it is what we have gained over the last 20, 30, 40 years need to be sustained. And we had certain crises in higher education even before COVID, and these need to be sorted out. These need to be emphasized in the policy, in the philosophy of different institutions of higher education. And there is a huge prospect. I want to refer to one study done I have come across this study where actually it is mentioned that particularly how the share of population aged 15 plus educated to degree level by country, and by 2050 India is going to have this population of 17%, and in 1970 India was 1.64, and as I mentioned earlier that now it is about 5%, and same changes are coming, and particularly some countries will lead, India, South Korea, Singapore, Netherlands, and some other countries. So we can see people are going to be more and more dependent on higher education. So the better we make it more people centric, more attuned to the needs of the people and the culture of our own society. This is very, very important. And of course, there will be privatization, there will be market dominance, but at the same time, we need to focus on other aspect, the aspect of humanity, aspect of welfare, aspect of collective development. And I finish by emphasizing that the post-COVID or post-pandemic higher education will face some temporary, some short-term challenges, but with right kind of policy, right kind of philosophy, right kind of mindset, we can overcome the challenges, and we can rather strengthen and come with more emphasis on higher education for the development or for the change of our nation, our society, our people. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for bringing light on the most relevant topic of the hour. Your highly resourceful, truly enlightening, thought-provoking, and richly documented keynote address made our webinar really a valuable one. And it enlightened and enriched us a lot. We are highly obliged, sir, for your precious deliberation and for spending your valuable time in the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, sir.
Yes. Thank you too. Welcome.
Thank you for bringing light on the most relevant topic of the hour, and your highly resourceful, truly enlightening, thought-provoking, and richly documented keynote address made our webinar really a valuable one, sir, and it enlightened and enriched us a lot. We are highly obliged, sir, for your precious deliberation and for spending your valuable time in the webinar. Thank you, sir. Now we have an interaction session. I request Mr. Jayanto Kolita, the joint coordinator of the webinar, to conduct the session. Mr. Jayanto Kolita.
Thank you, madam. Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Respected participants, now the session is open and you can put your questions. I have just picked up one question from the chat box, though I requested to put their questions in the chat box, but I have seen one question only, and the participants may put their questions directly so that we can unmute themselves. Sir, there is a question from the participants I have just collected from the chat box. That is from Dinesh Gogoi. Sir, due to increasing tendency of the privatization of higher education, a large part of people will not proper value of higher education. So what is your opinion, sir? Is it not, it will be a big human crisis of the world?
Should I speak now?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are.
Okay. Thank you. And I really appreciate the question. And this is very, very pertinent question. And in fact, not only me, I mean, everybody in this panel has their answer. And this is the dilemma that we are facing, particularly after the end of the Cold War, because the way the world became globalized in terms of market. We are facing this dilemma from every country. But to me, actually, we cannot remain isolated. At the same time, we cannot be fully dependent on privatization. I mean, there is a need for some blend, and this blend is not one size fits all. I mean, this blend has to be something based on the requirements of the society, of the state, or of the country concerned. But what unfortunately I see in today's world, I mean, there is sort of large-scale privatization without considering the consequences of these to the society or to the future of the society, and in the name of increasing the access to education, or even for some other reasons. Actually, we are actually over I mean, emphasizing privatization in some parts, but not all. But of course, there are very great private institutions who are doing very, very well. So I think the model that we need to follow today is a kind of blend, kind of mix, where actually we need very strong private institutions and also strong private institutions. They can work together and they can contribute. But I must say, it is not. It should not be the case that we see in today's world as like one size fits all, that the privatization is the only solution to the education problem. So it has to be balanced, blended, and based on the needs and requirements of individual society, individual country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question from Saidi Rahman. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, sure.
He's asking, what is your advocacy on the educational imbalance among students of rural areas and technologically advanced urban areas after this pandemic?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I mentioned it in my deliberation that there is a digital divide, and this divide is very seriously felt by the people. Of course, I mean, who are living at the rural level without much opportunities and facilities, not only in terms of technology, even also in terms of basic requirements of life, basic needs of life. And they face enormous problem. And on the other hand, of course, in the urban area, there is some affluence, but the urban area is also quite unequal. I mean, all are not actually quite capable in urban areas. So digital divide or divide between or among the people, of course, I mean, rural urban, there's a gap, and also within the rural area there is a gap. So my point is that the policy of government on the one hand at the broad level, and the policy of institution at the local level or at the institutional level should focus this in their policy, in their education policy, in their institutional kind of philosophy, in their institutional kind of management, that how we can actually offer more opportunities to the people who are deprived, who are the victims of the divide, the digital divide or other kinds of divides. So we can offer some programs, some funding, some fellowships, some resources to them, so that they can actually have more access into the resources, and they can come up. So this issue has to be strongly pursued in the policies of institutions, individual institutions. If it is a college, if it is university, and also the government. And I always argue that in our country, our education policy is not very strong and very people friendly. They must be made people friendly, and there should be more allocation to education by the government.
Thank you, sir. One more question, sir, from Daisy Das. So as a medical student, we need to deal with the human body, but due to this pandemic, we are not able to cope up with this. Even online classes are not much effective for us. And our teachers also unable to taking practical classes also. So how can we cope up with this?
Yeah, thank you again. But this is something very, very difficult. I mean, and where actually online system cannot actually address. We know, I mean, students of engineering programs or medical programs or science programs, they have different kinds of problems, because students of humanities or social sciences or business or law, they can have some sort of very productive online programs, but for the engineers, but here we have to actually wait, and this disruption has to be considered as a sort of temporary kind of phenomenon, and of course, I mean, there can be separate measures for the students of medical or engineering, because hospitals are not closed, and I think medical colleges can have innovative programs if it continues. I mean, we don't know how long this COVID will continue, but if it continues for longer period, or if there are more waves of COVID-19, second or third, I mean, of course, there should be some innovation by the engineering programs or medical programs to support their students in terms of providing practical classes or practical kind of programs. So, but for the moment, I understand that the problem is not I mean is easily I mean overcome, and we need to wait for some time, and the institutions should go for some innovation, some rethinking if it continues further. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lots of questions are coming in the set box, but due to the time constraint, I will not take all the questions. So one more question. How can we achieve the main aim of education, that is all-round development of the learner through digitalization? Is it possible?
I would say, I mean, it is not. It is never possible to have on all-round development through education based on digitalization, and even no one advocates such thing. Digitalization is a temporary phenomenon. It can actually supplement the education I mean the teaching methods or education that we have been accustomed to, we have been experiencing before COVID. So I think, again, COVID is not a permanent feature. And if there is vaccine after a few months, of course, this will not be the case. So I think digitalization has come as an option to complement, to supplement the method that we follow face to face. I mean, there is no alternative of face to face education when we think about the real fruit, real outcome of education for all round development, philosophically, economically, spiritually, technologically. But of course, for the time being, digitalization is the only option that can actually offer some space at this moment where actually we are fully incapable of using face-to-face method. In that case, digitalization is very important, but it is temporary, and then it can continue, of course, after COVID to complement, to supplement this because digitalization has some benefits. I mean, what we cannot get from face-to-face, because it also helps us in different ways, but it cannot be the only method, or it cannot be the main method of education. I don't think any society in the world consider it this way. And even the respondents in different surveys have also argued that they want actually face-to-face education. So I think digitalization for the time being is the only option. And when there is an opportunity for
pandemic situation in higher education in Nepal, especially, I would like to express here my view broadly in four issues now, four issues. First of all, my concern in higher education, especially focused in Nepal. So first, brief existing status and policy of higher education in Nepal. What are the brief existing status and the policy of higher education in Nepal, especially in Nepal? And secondly, problems and challenges which faces most of developing countries with reference to Nepal. And there are common problems and challenges, especially in the South Asia, which we faced now. So I would like to share now this. And third is the during and post pandemic higher education situation in Nepal, especially in my focus in my Nepal. And lastly, what are the approaches and the way forward on pandemic and the post pandemic higher education in Nepal? So I think this is the four area which I would like to share with you now. First of all, I share where what is the education, the philosophically education, what it do now. So mostly I say now education always helps to reduce inequality and discriminations of society in social aspect of society. But my question raises today, it happened especially in South Asia. So this is my questions now, because we have a lot of discriminations in society, which we create from education or create from avoid education. So I think this is my philosophical issues now. And another issue which already as raised by Professor Dilbar Hussain, the quantity versus quality higher education. This is the very most common issues now in today, quantity versus quality higher education. And always we focus the quality higher education, not quantity. So this is my focus area in the quantity of higher educations. So we know that the concept of higher education is different nations has been almost similar now. In Nepal, beyond secondary education, especially that provided by university, is referred to as the higher educations. Mostly referred by university, referred by the higher education. And there are four issues in the higher education, especially in access, quality, inclusion, and financing, are the major issues in higher education in different countries now. Among these, the quality reform of higher education in Nepal or the South Asia, is a vital issue in our education system now. So higher education contributes to human resource development, and it needed for the development and enlightenment of the society now. So, but recently performance of higher educations in Nepal in more crucial in terms of the poor institutions and outcomes now. So meanwhile, it badly suffers from the COVID-19 now. So after post-pandemic, is badly affected by the quality education and higher education now. And another, my questions, my observations now. What are the aims of education, higher education now? So the aims of higher education is to provide citizens universal knowledge and the values shape produced by peaceful life now. You know, the Article 13 of United Nations, UN International Council of Economic and Social Cultural Rights on 1996 declares that the higher education shall be made equally accessible to all on the basis of capacity by every appropriate means. Therefore, higher education must be accessible to all those who can benefit for it. So this article also raised the issue in inclusions also. So poor discriminated peoples now who really get the opportunity in the higher education now. So it is also one big question. And another is This is the also clearly state that the Article 26, the Declaration of Human Rights, as access to higher education must be equal for all on the basis of their corresponding merits. And in this context, admission or enrollment policy in higher education is one of the major indicators of quality higher education. So, especially in Nepal, higher education for all or higher education for deserve now. Deserve means not I would like to say economically deserve, but deserve means his capacity now, his intensity now. So this is another major issue in higher education. And that scenario, the academic reforms such as the academic qualification and capacity of faculty members, especially in capacity of faculty members, research and development program like library, laboratory, learning environment in classroom, feedback system, curriculum evaluation, pedagogy and use of ICT, and monitoring of students' progress are other important indicators to review the existing status of higher education now. So, on support for effective inputs such as the student capacity and the motivation to learn the subject to be learned. Teachers who know and can teach the subject and time or teaching learning are learning required of the education. This is the very denoted by the one word book 1995. The World Bank now says now, and in higher education there are three parameters now. There are three higher quality. There are three indicators which belongs to the quality higher education. One is the academic indicators. One is academic indicators. Another is the physical indicators, and third is one the important, the inclusive indicators. So we know that the academic indicators shows that the quality of faculty members now, teachers, academic qualification, motivation and commitment, regular classes, classroom orientations, research. These are the quality of faculty members, effective leadership, material and ICT use, internal assessment and the feedback session, student support system, faculty member teacher support system, learning environment, community ownership, effective management, library facilities, equipped library, supervision and monitoring, research activities, and the completion rate of students or the retention of the students. These are the academic indicators of our higher educations. And most important is the physical inclusive indicators. Female faculty members now, girls students, enrollment in girls students, and scholarship for poor students, and the participation of the female students. These are the inclusive indicators in our higher education. In this scenario, I would like to present some policy of higher education in Nepal now. So in case of Nepal, government has taken some policies about higher education, and the policy measure the focus on to enhance the access and quality of higher education for knowledge-based society and economy. For this to produce scientific, innovative, and competitive internationally and research-based human resource development are basic policy of higher education in Nepal. So these are the basic policy of higher education in Nepal now, especially focus on the quality higher education, for knowledge-based society and economy, and the scientific, innovative, and competitive and research-based SRD is the basic policy of higher education in Nepal. And to increase the investment in higher education at the provincial and the federal level. This is another issues of the higher education in Nepal, because we have three types of government: provincial, federal, and local level, local government. But higher education is not belongs to the local level. This is the provincial and the federal level now. So this is to increase, the government said to increase the investment in higher education. But we know there are only 7% of total budget invest in the higher education in Nepal, especially. and total 4.5% GDP share in education now, not higher education now, so total education now. And another thing that to strengthen institutional development and determine the national standard examination criteria now for higher education now. This is also an important issue. To best use of information technology and classroom and learning methods, techniques, and the process of university, the based on the new pedagogy along with informing university curriculum now. And to make medical education non-profitable and service-oriented, to establish the Ayurvedic University, to review and the restructure of the present educational program in the Faculty of Education, to expand the research program in different disciplines, finally to attract the international students from the quality and competitive higher education. But implementations of the aspect of this policy, Nepal faced the very problems now, very problems, in especially focus in the implementation area. The policy says the increase the investment in higher education, but if we look the budget now, so every year they're decreasing now. It will decreasing now. So implementation is the very poor now. And the last second, what are the problems and challenges we face in higher education, especially in Nepal? Focus in Nepal. In Nepal, it has only 17.1% gross enrollment rate now. You have in higher education now, gross enrollment in higher education only 17.1%. Out of 100%, 17.1% is the gross enrollment rate. And we have the 11 university and 6 health science and councils exist now here. 11 university, but the above 80% students enroll in the one university now, like Tertiary University. There, Tertiary University, TU has problems to conduct class via virtual class due to the access of facilities, especially who live in the rural areas. This issue is also discussed or raised by some participants now. So our most of enrolled students came from rural area, and they only I think 20%, 20 to 30% students only access to the devices of the digital devices in our digital device or internet access to. Most of the 80%, most of 80% students excluded from this open virtual class now. In total, 1,276 campuses exist in Nepal, 96 government colleges, 429 communities, and 751 private now. So growing the private institutions in Nepal is very excellent, very excellent in the recent day now. Because the government less investment, and then the private sector is came from the investment, their profit mechanism, earning profit now. So although the number of higher education providers has expanded, the access of opportunity for higher education have not become equal now. This shows the educational attainment of the different caste ethnic group in their own population is not satisfactory. Already, I think Professor Dilbar Hussain says the how many populations completed the higher education. In Nepal, especially 3.4% total populations is completed the bachelor's and above level now. 3.4% in Nepal now, especially. If you look the by ethnicity or caste level and the level, we see the 5.4% from Brahmin or Kshatriya, the upper caste level, is completed bachelor's and above level. But Dalit or scheduled class now 0.4% now, and minority regions, especially in Muslim, 1.6%. So this data shows that there are a huge gap or the exclusion practices in the higher education now. So Dalit or scheduled class is very excluded in the higher education. So this is the one issues of in Nepal. I think this is also issues of the South Asia, like South Asia now. Also you have now. In higher education, teaching learning pedagogy is still traditional. There are lack of use in the modern methods and techniques like inquiry, problem solving project, and others devices, digital devices methods now. And the government has given fewer priorities in the higher education in terms of total budget in education. We already share you 7 to 8% now total budget provided expand in the higher educations. Capacity development of faculty members is not satisfactory in Nepal, especially. There are no capacity development of faculty members now. And completion rate of higher education is found not satisfactory. I think dropout rate or retention rate, dropout rate is the higher educational founder in the bigger. And the retention is also a very problem in higher education. That means there are lack of efficiency in higher education now. And this is also major problems which increase in high dropout rate due to the post COVID-19 now. So this is one of the challenge in our education system now. Role of Nepal UGC, University Grant Commission, in quality assurance is less effective now. And bad governance in higher education is very problematic parts of the higher educations. More political party influence in higher educations. So this is the partisan or politicization. Politicization is the good things now, I think now, but more party is the influence in higher educations. Leaders are invest in higher educations for political parties now for profit making. So this is the now issues in major issues in our higher education system now. And third one, I would like to share with you during COVID-19 and the post-pandemic higher education situation in Nepal. What are the post-pandemic higher education situation in Nepal during COVID-19? During about 4 months, higher education is badly suffer from the pandemic COVID-19 in Nepal. In this season, almost higher education institution closed during lockdown. Almost closed now, higher education closed lockdown. Online and virtual classes is not effective in higher education. Most of the students in higher education came from villages, and majority of them, they have no digital devices, internet connection, digital devices. Only 20 to 30% students have the access to internet now, which have only science discipline and another medical discipline has more than, but in our education, humanities, and another faculties very minimal, because very minimal access to digital now. There is no provision to develop the capacity of faculty members during the pandemic situations now. Government or state or universities does not take any decision till about examination of their students now. I think I see in India some provision taken by government, but in Nepal there are no any decision to take in the government or the university now. Yesterday, government decided to withdraw the lockdown, but still they do not allow the conduct of national transportation. So this is now affected by the local transportation. Without local transportation, without national transportation, how can we reopen our university now? So this is another big challenge now. Probably a dropout in higher education is very high due to COVID-19 now. So most of parents of students which belong to the lower middle class lose their job now. And due to these reasons, the students also lose their education now. So this is another issues or challenges of our higher education. This should be the focus on the education system by government or in university. And last, I would like to share what are the approaches now and the way forward on the post-pandemic higher education in Nepal. This is the very important now. I think if we look see our challenges and our issues now, challenges, and then we imagine the what are our approaches. What are the approaches? So I recommend here that here 10 approaches to develop or adopt, especially case in Nepal. Develop first of all, my approaches. Develop the strategic plan for post-pandemic situation in higher education. Government or universities should develop the strategic plan for post-pandemic situation in higher education. And next, second is the change our learning pedagogies, which focuses in introduce the online or virtual classes. So we mostly reliance on the traditional pedagogies now. So we try to focus our modern technology, technology, online virtual classes. So this is one of the another forward now, way forward, and provide financial loan, very soft loan for students to continue their study. If we save the dropout, then then government or university government should provide the financial loan. This is a very soft loan for students to continue their study. Provide soft loan for private and community institutions to run their program after COVID-19, because a lot of private institutions, community institutions, their teachers are now without salary. They have teachers, but they are not paid by the institutions. So government should manage their teachers retention now. Provide the scholarship for the more victim students, and develop the scheme of internet scholarship. I think one issue is the internet scholarship is the internet now. So or the digital devices now. So this scheme is also most valuable to our conduct our post-pandemic higher educations now. And another reoriented curriculum. Reoriented curriculum means the cut down size of curriculum for post-pandemic higher education. We know there are, I think, if you see the curriculum, I think 40% curriculum, the issues of our discipline content is the, I think, not too important, but very important now. So if we completed the curriculum courses, so the issue is the which of the units or which of the contents with more focus on our in the higher education, pandemic situation in higher education now. And another is the cut down the tuition fees for students. The tuition fees also very important. And my finally provision of augmented residential model, fully online model, and a hybrid model. There are three models in our in American system also. You have in education system there are three models. One model is the residential model, which I show the homeschooling now, residential model, or and second is fully online model, only online model. In Nepal, in South Asia, online model is also not very success. And third is in the hybrid model. I think we suggested that we should go to the hybrid model now. So in my hybrid model means their residential and oriented online models is mixed up now. And government allocate more budget in higher education. Now, this is also because in the pandemic of higher education, if we address the pandemic, then government allocate more budget in higher education now, these days now. So these things are our suggestions by suggestion to government or the university or the suggested institutions. And these are my presentations. If any query, then I'll be ready to answer. Thank you very much for my presentations.
Now, I would like to take the privilege to offer our heartiest gratitude and thanks to our Honorable Resource Person, Professor Binoy Kumar Kochia, for his highly resourceful delivery. Thank you, sir, for your highly resourceful and truly informative database deliberation on these most relevant issues of the time and about teacher learning requirements, about higher education system and present scenario. You have focused on all the pros and cons of higher education and shared an in-depth knowledge on the topic. I'm certain that your thought-provoking deliberation has definitely enlightened and benefited us all, sir. Thank you, sir. We will be ever grateful to you for being a valuable part of this international webinar as a resource person. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. We'll meet in the introduction session also, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to introduce the resource person from our home country, India. She is Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam, the Head Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi, New Delhi, India. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam, is MCA, MBA, Human Resource Management, MPhil, PhD, JNU, Head Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi, New Delhi, a teacher in church, NCWEB, University of Delhi, JMC Center, member of college, IQSC, Jesus and Mary College, Nodal Officer Admission, JMC Delhi University. She has 15 years experience in the teaching and research. She has numerous publications in the area IT education, innovation, skill development, and employability, etc. Now, I would like to take the privilege to request Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam, to deliver her speech. Please, Madam. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mansi.
Yes.
A very good afternoon to the esteemed panelists and all the participants. At the onset, I would like to extend my heartful gratitude towards the college, Nandlal College, and the organizing team of the international webinar for being able to put up such a great event. It has been a great learning experience for all of us, the participants, as well as for myself. And I'm really honored to be a part and sharing the podium with such esteemed academicians who are renowned in their field. I'm grateful to the organizers for making me a part of this event. So I would like to begin with setting the perspective. So I am glad that, you know, the previous two esteemed panelists have already set the perspective of higher education, and they have discussed in detail about what is the philosophy behind higher education and what is the context in which higher education should be placed in the neoliberal economic order. And therefore, I would like to shift my presentation slightly towards the technical aspect and make it a little more practical for you so that you do not find it more redundant as what has been shared with you all. So basically, the coronavirus pandemic has dramatically transformed human lives. You know, the way we do our business, the way we interact with each other, and any force of nature so far has not been known to affect the human lives in a way as catastrophic as the COVID-19 has. So basically, since December 2019, we have seen that across the world, more than 180 countries have experienced the disastrous effect of this virus. And we have also seen, if we come back to the theme of the higher academic institutions, so we have seen that there have been massive closures all across the countries, and displacement of students have taken place at a massive extent. So there have been few instances in the recent past also, like when we had the H1N1 flu in 2009, or we had the influenza spreads in some parts of the world. So we had seen that such closures had taken place. Yes, the educational institutions had to be closed, but then the scope and the impact of those pandemic, those epidemics was more restrained to certain parts of the world and certain parts of the countries. But the way we are experiencing how the COVID-19 is affecting the human population and the human race is definitely historic, and definitely it is going to be there in as a part of academic and deliberations for a lifetime, I would rather say. So if we put things in global perspective, keeping if we look at how the global context has been set up by the COVID-19, so we know that about 185 countries, and as Professor Hussain already said, that more than 220 million post-secondary students have seen that their academics have been significantly disrupted due to COVID-19. And UNESCO has reported that 75% of the world's student population has been affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. So, the very important point here is that the time when the pandemic struck the world, that is the time of February to April, particularly in the Indian context, if I will say, that is the time of the semester of the academic year, which is the most important in terms of examinations and assessments and annual activities that take place. So this has affected about 60 million students globally, and they have been limited to their homes because of this pandemic. Now, this pandemic has actually changed a lot of things about our education systems. Now we have a new lexicology, we have a new way of looking at the terms of flexibility, creativity, resilience, and adaptability of our education systems. So we are seeing that of course the international student mobility has come to a standstill, and there are different reasons, particularly the most important being financial constraints. Now the thing is that a large number of universities of the world, they are thinking it again, they are giving it a rethink, as in how the international student community can be engaged as it was earlier. Now, the research activities, of course, have seen a drastic drop in the retention rate, and we are also seeing that the deficiencies of our higher existing models of higher education institutions are being exposed. So we are seeing that already there were so many problems in our higher education systems which have come out in broad daylight once we have come out in this shared emergency and shared urgency to transform our systems overnight into a different altogether. So now the thing is that diversification, which we have been talking and discussing about so much about the in the context of higher educational and technical educational scenarios, has become the survival strategies for most higher education institutions today. And the students of tomorrow, please understand, the students of tomorrow that we were discussing so far are actually there in front of us. The time to reimagine our higher education is standing right in front of us. So these challenges are of course in front of us, and we are definitely experiencing a broad scale institutional disruption due to this COVID-19 pandemic. The institutions are, they have to completely restructure their system of working, restructure their organization, restructure their administration in order to keep the activity of learning, teaching, learning, and assessment going on. Please understand that even if the world stops, the process of learning cannot halt, right? Now, besides this, another important agenda or another important concern for all higher educational stakeholders is the well-being of the student and the staff. Now, when we're talking about well-being, we're talking about both the mental as well as the physical well-being of the staff. Now, there is an enormous amount of technical debt which is experienced, especially I would say in the low income countries or in the developing countries, that all institutions, they have a technical debt. Now, when I say technical debt, I mean that the infrastructure or the technology or the available systems which are there in the higher educational institutions, they are obsolete. Most of them are obsolete. They are not state of the art systems. So therefore, this is not just about the hardware that I'm talking about. It is also about the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the people working in the higher educational system. I may be questioned on this, but yes, there is a huge number of teachers who are not updated with their skills of dealing with the new age teaching learning technologies. So we are all under that technical debt. We are all under that pressure of resources, of infrastructure, as well as the the abilities of our human resource at the delivery end, at the teaching end, to cope with any kind of situation that has come in front of us, like the COVID-19. Then of course we are seeing that the many, like it's already been pointed out by professor from Nepal, that there is a large number of teaching faculty and staff in educational institutions which are not getting their salaries, or I would rather like to put it as they are being put on furloughs. So till the time, especially in case of privately funded institutions, this is being experienced, that these institutions are, these people, the staff is being given a forced leave, because the institution itself is not able to sustain its resources and its functioning due to the fees issues or whatever issues. Of course, the COVID-19 has also brought into light the equity implications. Now, when we talk about equity in case of higher educational institutions, we are talking about the academic equity, the social equity, the financial equity, and the geophysical equity of the students. So now, academic equity, of course, we experience within the purview of our own classroom. All teachers would agree that there is a lot of disparity when we encounter a group of students in a class. The academic disparities are there. Of course, social disparities in terms of caste, class, and all that is there. And then physical, like the question of rural and urban divide of resources, or rural and urban ways of life in which people are living, or maybe gender issues are coming in. There are reports which are coming from villages where the girls have been asked not to continue their studies and they have been put into household activities, or where people are financially less stable, the families are financially weak. They have asked their children, they've pulled the students from their academics and they've asked them to start working because they are not able to cope with the financial stress which has come in due to the COVID-19 pandemic issues. So therefore, the higher education system is experiencing these short-term as well as certain long-term challenges also, like the question of funding. We all are discussing that how private and public funding has reduced considerably due to the COVID-19. Now, when I'm talking about private funding, I would also like to draw your attention to a very micro level of funding which happens at the family level, or at the level where students are taking a bank loan, an education loan for their students. Now, all this kind of funding is going to be affected. Of course, when the family's income is going to go down, how will it how will it be able to give the fees of these students? Also, another aspect of this is that when the students are going for a foreign degree or going for foreign university, so all those things come to a question mark giving in the situation like this. Then certain universities and certain courses may see permanent closures also, because now the trend is going to be towards more employment oriented jobs, or employment or job oriented courses which the students may want to turn to. So therefore, we may experience that after the pandemic, or even recently, we will experience that certain courses may not find any demand because they are not able to generate employment for the student once the student gets that degree. So we must keep that in mind, that permanent closures of institutions as well as certain courses could be down the line, could be a possibility. And therefore, and also another important aspect here is that we should all be prepared that there may be permanent movement of certain programs to online or remote modes only, right? So and also there is going to be an increased local demand of educational institutions. Why I'm saying increased local demand? Because the students who were trying to go out of their city or out of their state or out of their country for gaining higher education may now be constrained due to a multitude of reasons that I have discussed already, and they may want to get their education in the locality in their own area. So therefore, the institutions within the locality or at the local level will have to evolve themselves, will have to innovate themselves to cater to that kind of increased demand. And this can also be looked at the as an opportunity at the same time, because it gives the institutions a chance to modify themselves, to reinvent themselves, and to present themselves to meet that increasing local demand which is coming from the bright minds of their locality. Of course, we have seen that there will be a definite loss of collaborative research because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to platforms like Zoom and platforms like Google Meet, which have helped people to come together and to brainstorm on so many issues. There are so many webinars and all happening. That's great, but definitely collaborative research which used to take place on a face to face has to be compromised to a certain extent. Now, besides individual challenges, institutions are also going to experience a large number of challenges in the post-COVID scenario, because we understand that there is an apparent inadequate instructional support and communication in case of institutional functioning, especially in case of public funded institutional functioning. There is a large amount of red tapeism. There is a large amount of delay in decision making which happens, and that is going to hamper the transformation of these institutions into more dynamic, into more functional kind of systems which is required for developing this kind of an online scenario. According to Allen and Seaman, other barriers which will be a lack of support from faculty for online learning and instruction. Of course, the faculty itself will feel challenged to an extent to cope with this new kind of pedagogy which is going to fall upon them, which has already fallen upon them, without much room for preparation, without much room for any kind of training. Another important challenge which most institutions are facing is the high cost of developing online courses and programs. We all understand that there are multitudes of options, multitudes of platforms which are available to develop online courses, to develop MOOCs and all these. But yes, there is going to be a high cost. If you collaborate with private partners on this, then many private agencies are looking for business opportunities, especially if I will talk in context of Delhi or cities, big cities where we see more of this kind of activity. So this has come out as a great business opportunity for some of the private ventures to harp on the institutions and to offer them solutions for having online courses, online exams, and they are proposing, and these are really expensive solutions. So therefore, this is another important institutional challenge which has come to light. Another very, very important aspect which I would like to point out as a teacher is that while we are delivering, while we are in the boundaries or in the four walls of a classroom, that is our domain. That is a domain that is a world between the teacher and the student. If we are constantly moving towards this online kind of mode of education, we are definitely going to lose the autonomy of the classroom which we have all been enjoying so far. If I am constantly under surveillance, if I am constantly under the fear that somebody is recording what I am saying, somebody is monitoring my activities, then I will not be the same natural person which I am. So being a teacher is not just being an academic, it also has to be fulfilling and enriching experience, both psychologically and intellectually, for the teacher as well as for the student. So somewhere I feel that this is going to affect the overall experience of teaching and learning for both the instructor as well as the student, because of this kind of a virtual wall which is being created due to the technology. Of course, now so far you may be thinking that, oh, this is such a gloomy picture that she is painting and everything is so bad. But no, it's not that. There is, of course, a silver lining to every cloud. So definitely, if we look at COVID-19 also, this can be an approach for developing or for strengthening certain areas which we have not really worked on, which we have not really been very successful on. For instance, I'll just give you a simple instance. Could you have thought in February of 2020 that 4,000 people can come together from 21 different countries of the world and sit together and have a webinar like this. And what is the cost of this webinar? If I'm sure, if anybody would have planned a physical seminar like this of this scale, it would have cost millions of rupees, right? But definitely this has allowed us to develop a multi-stakeholder approach. So it's giving us new collaboration opportunities to build new partnership with the old stakeholders, right? So definitely this is going to increase the community engagement activities of the higher education. For example, the medical colleges. Now the medical colleges are providing, they are not just training the doctors, but they are also, they are also extending their services towards providing emergency services to the patients of COVID-19, or building COVID wards. And there have been reports where psychology departments of various renowned universities in the country, they have extended free counseling services to the students or to other people who are experiencing too much of psychological stress due to the prevailing circumstances. So definitely technology is going to change the pedagogy, but it is also somehow going to empower the teachers also, because the teachers will although it is going to be under stress, but they will have to reinvent themselves, and they will have to rethink the way the delivery of the curricula is going to take place. So therefore we can say that the role of higher education has to be towards moving towards education 4.0. We've all been talking about education 4.0 to support industry 4.0. That is, education should not be only for learning, but it should be for innovation, for leadership, for research. So that kind of an enhanced collaboration between the higher education institutions, the government, the private sector, and the society can be possible if it is a technology mediated solution which is provided. So therefore the higher education institutions must think about how they can contribute towards public policy, either through providing institutional leadership or through providing their researchers. Ultimately it is going to be the survival of the fittest. So only those research universities and institutions which are globally and nationally viable, which are able to sustain themselves in this great big storm, are going to survive this depression. This is actually going to be a depression, but greater risk for poorly funded institutions definitely is going to be there, because these are entirely funded on tuition fees. And one must also recognize that a large number of institutions today, even in India, we have a great percentage of institutions, especially giving technology, management, and professional education, which are privately funded. So those institutions may find it difficult. So now what is the solution, right? So solution, definitely online teaching is the need of the hour. We will all agree that there is no other solution. If you want to ensure your well-being, if you want to ensure the continuity of education for your students, there is no other way but you have to shift to the online mode of education. But then this education actually should be contextualized, and it should be bite-sized content. So what I'm trying to say here is that we must need to develop, we must need to work on new technologies which are available to us, like artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning. So basically, we need to work on an aggregate pedagogical model, which is not just going to be technology which is going to be used as a model of delivery of content, but it has to be a model which is based on learning psychology, behavioral analytics, content delivery and analytics. And keeping all this in mind, innovative solutions need to be developed, right? So of course this is going to address the question of digital divide to a certain extent. So there are several actions which can be taken in order to make this transition from offline to online much smoother. At the moment, I think most of the universities and colleges, they are having a break, and they may resume their classes in August. So before this, we have little time to prepare ourselves, to prepare the institutions for this kind of a rapid technological transformation which we have been put into. So we need to train the instructors. We need to have tailor-made training sessions. This is very, very important. There are a number of tools which are available, and these tools can be used to give training to the teachers so that they can use these tools for the maximum benefit of the students. So we need to coach and support the students on remote learning, and a definitive institutional policy should be in place. It should not be an ad hoc approach for using the online techniques. So basically we should also keep in mind this, that it should provision for the students who are at risk. Of course, it is the job of the teacher to go to the last mile to ensure that every student in the group is able to engage and engage and to make the best use and to leverage whatever is being delivered. So basically a large amount of care and compassion is required on the end of the teacher, especially in this time of pandemic and in case of higher educational institutions. So earlier the role of the teacher, or the role of the for the future students, the teacher, you needed five main elements in his or her teaching. That is, he had to offer the choice to the student. He had to ensure that the students collaborate, or there is teamwork between them. There is ample amount of communication. Then the critical thinking element has to be developed, and the students have to be made creative. But now I would like to add that besides these 5 C's, that is choice, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity, the overarching is care. So we should all be more empathetic towards our students, and we should all go to an extra mile to show our students that yes, we care for them. So definitely the post-pandemic hybrid model of education or higher education delivery is going to be the hybrid model, which is going to be based on a multi-pronged strategy. That is, we will need to have a model which is actually blended learning model, which will be a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous modes. Now when I'm saying synchronous and asynchronous modes, please understand here that I am not referring to a physical classroom. I am only talking about, in the blended learning also, I am talking about a scenario where the face-to-face classroom is not possible, right? So what I'm suggesting is that we can have a model where teachers can have, if the network, if the resources permit, we can of course have a synchronous way of communicating, just like we are doing now, a real-time kind of teaching, a classroom kind of experience we can give them. Asynchronous could be that we can use techniques like Moodles, or we can use techniques like LMS or EduNex. Now these tools which I am mentioning here, these are free tools, and the teachers can use these tools wherever they have reasonable internet connectivity. Let me tell you, these are rather lighter tools which do not require as heavy bandwidth as the other heavier tools like YouTube and all these. And they can use these tools to create a learning module for the student, and they can share it with the students even offline. If it is possible, you can give it through to you can send it on you can share it on a Gmail or like that. And these solutions can help the students even at the last mile. If a student has a reasonable smartphone also, then these solutions can be made available. So basically a blended learning model of synchronous and asynchronous modes of digital education. Both synchronous and asynchronous, what I'm talking about here, are digital only. But yes, these are models which can suit to those students who lie at the margin, who are less privileged, or who do not have decent internet connectivity or a decent infrastructure at their places. So they can, even those students can use simplest of the things to access this. Also, if we are talking about funding, definitely the type of funding which is required, it should also come on the it should also come from the government's end, that they ensure that when the designing of these blended systems is taking place, then the financial analysis of these systems is done thoroughly, and if need be, the support should be taken from the public funding institutions. So the UGC or whichever are the institutions, the AICTE in case of India, all these institutions should come forward, and they should augment with, they should help the institutions in developing such state of the art systems. And even private public collaboration can be a good way of working. There are different kinds of companies which are offering solutions under corporate social responsibility initiatives. They should also be approached, like which are giving the systems on much on a less, on you can say on discounted prices, especially for institutions of higher education. So this kind of model can work very well in those situations also. So basically, if I try to sum up, and if I try to tie the whole thing, I would say that certain recommendations should be kept in mind for all practitioners of higher education. One is that we should try and integrate an environment and health course in the curriculum. This should be a recommendation, even if it is not a compulsory course. An additional or an enhancement course should be given to the students, especially for their health and for environmental awareness. Online mental health and medical facilities and counseling services should be provided by all institutions, at least for a couple of months, even after the normalcy resumes. Then, and strengthening of policies of hygiene practices, and this should be made a compulsory activity. And we should, especially in case of rural areas where that much of awareness is lacking, all this should come from the institutions, that they should strengthen environmental policies, hygiene practices in their institutions. They should build that kind of culture. And the most important would be that we need to align the curriculum competencies, and we need to scale up our teachers. We need to give training for online instructions to the teacher. Each institution should try to build up a database. It should try to build up a knowledge base from where the teachers can draw the resources, and they can feel competent, they can feel confident of meeting with the challenges that online teaching may bring to them. Strengthening research efforts, data monitoring, and building up evidence-based practices. So there are so many studies and surveys are being conducted. See, definitely we will all agree that face-to-face education has no substitute. But given the constraints, we have no other way. So definitely the teachers should feel empowered, they should feel confident, and that is only possible through sufficient training, through sufficient learning experience for the teachers themselves. And only then they can think of delivering, they can think of building that kind of confidence, or delivering that kind, or transmitting that kind of faith in their students, that yes, we can come out of this pandemic, and we need not stop the teaching, learning, and the entire experience of knowledge building because of this. So I would like to thank once again for all of you for a patient hearing, and any questions will be more than welcome. Thank you, Dr. Mansi Gogoi.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your highly enriching, resourceful, absorbing, integrating, knowledgeable, and database deliberation, madam. And it has definitely enlightened us all. And your truly enlightening, thought-provoking, and richly documented speech have enriched us a lot. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. We will be ever grateful to you for being a valuable part of this international webinar as a resource person to make our webinar a successful one. We hope to meet you again, madam, and future academic endeavors also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll meet you again in the interaction session also, madam.
Sure.
I'm immensely pleased to announce it that a resource person from New Zealand is also with us. Mr. Isan Jayawardene, the Senior Research Fellow, New Zealand. Ishan Jayawardene sir has a bright academic career. He completed his undergraduate studies at Hindu College of in Delhi University. As an ICSSR scholar and obtained his BA in sociology, he studied at Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi for his master's in international relations, and after having completed in his master's, he served as a coordinator for international affairs at government whip owner Minister Dennis Gonwardene for a few months in the home country Sri Lanka. Then he served as a visiting lecturer at the Faculty of Social Sciences in Sri Lanka Open University and served as a resource person for Institute of National Security Studies of Sri Lanka. He has been a contributor to LSE Forum for South Asia and Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, which is a think tank based in Israel. Mr. Jayavardhan's research interests include security studies, regional affairs. Mr. Jayavardhan, sir,
Yes, I can hear you now.
can
Thank
I
you very
request?
much.
Yes,
Thank you, Dr. Manshi, for the introduction. And I would like to thank you for collaborating with me and with the time restraints that I have in New Zealand. So thank you. And I would like to thank the university and the panelists for the input and for organizing such an event. So
yes,
thank you
sir.
very much.
And thank
It's
you.
good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
It's good to be back in India virtually, at least this way, as it's my second home. And
Yes.
so I'll start my session with slightly, I'll focus on Sri Lanka, New Zealand, and the South Asian perspective.
Okay.
For Sri Lanka, should I start it, Masha?
Yes, yes, sir. May I
All right.
request you to deliver your valuable speech in speech? Yes, you can start, sir.
All right.
Please.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So for Sri Lanka, from our culture itself, higher education is deep rooted. I would go prior to the Industrial Revolution, because with the establishment of the first international university in the world, Nalanda University, Sri Lankan Buddhist monks had collaboration with India. And in our historical records, it clearly shows how exchange happened between India and Sri Lanka among the Buddhist monks, and it helped a lot for the cultural evolution in Sri Lanka, and a lot of scholarship happened between the two countries. Since then, higher education has been quite important in the culture itself. Prior to the establishment of the university, the Western university systems, it was Buddhist institutes that carried on the higher education, and most of these Buddhist institutes were converted into universities after the independence. So in Sri Lanka, we have a high social growth. The main reason for that is the free education and the free health system that we received after 1956. So in India, as Panditji said, the dams and the temples are, the industries are going to be the new dams and the temples of India. The Sri Lanka, we did not have a proper national policy, but we had a policy of giving a free health and a free education system. And that's the reason Sri Lanka is being able to survive even during the pandemic as well. We do boast that we have a highest literacy rate in Sri Lanka, but the state of higher education is on tatters, unfortunately. The reason for that is until recent times, we only focused on the government university system, as private institutions are not allowed to be established. Less than 10% of the people, even though they have the cutoff marks, were being able to cater in the Sri Lankan university system. But recently, in the recent times, private education systems are being established. But even though it is established, the government has a problem of how to monitor the standards and the evaluating of these private education systems. With all these things happening, and uh, with the post-COVID-19, there's another problem that arises. If the government was not able to focus on the private education, how the standards are, with the technological approach and technologically, if the lectures are being carried out, how can the government or any institute monitor the standards of these education? Uh, Presently, in the most of the universities in Sri Lanka, there's, even though webinar, Zoom and all those things are available, many students does not have access to all these technology. So what they do is they upload a video and they put it on the website where student can log in and download and listen to it. But there's a problem of the computer literacy even among the faculty in Sri Lanka and among the students as well, as they are more uh, comfortable with the traditional methods of conducting the classroom sessions and all. Uh, Students' involvement in universities has will lost a decline with the present system that is going on, as students are like conducting the classes and everything from home or outside. Even though it happens in the university space, it is not just the formal education. There's space for informal education as well, and it's a rites of passage. So technically, even though you can attend a webinar, attend lectures through Zoom and other platforms, does that make it successful? And how can the quality of education be judged? Uh, and lastly, would it require the student teacher ratio in the future, as one lecturer could address 400 students in one go? So would it actually require to have the student teacher ratio in the future as well? So those questions needs to be addressed, how the higher universities are going to conduct all the education related programs in the future. Furthermore, there would be job cuts in higher education institutes. It's already visible, as one lecturer or a professor could conduct many lectures. Since that, due to that, like a lot of people are losing jobs as well. And even though due to the pandemic, even though universities are able to keep on the classrooms and the other lectures alive, but unfortunately they cannot keep the exam system going on because of the system that we have. The student has to come to the university and attend the exams from their home or any other institution. So that is the Macaulite system that we've developed in South Asia. So we have kind of a system where even a student could can attend their exams and all in online platform. Even if they do, we have to focus on how they will have access to internet, laptop, computer, all those facilities. Uh, However, looking at the present system and all, Sri Lanka has declared who are there, who are waiting, aspiring for government jobs, and it has become a burden on the government. Since that, they've decided to focus more on mechanical colleges and the technical colleges, where mechanics, plumbers, all those things would be given a proper recognition, and who people who could cater for the national GDP of the economy, plus who could go abroad and like do good jobs. Since then, like, so we are focusing on a skill to develop the skills of all the people for the next 10 years. Similarly, even in New Zealand, a similar decision has been taken by the government. They have looked into the skill shortage areas, and they are providing free courses such as winemaking, plumbing, nursing, construction. In all those areas, uh, citizens of New Zealand can go and enroll freely, take the course and be part of it, get themselves skilled and get a good job. So there can be we can see a trend where the governments are focusing more on developing of the skills of people than focusing on the high university education. As the COVID-19, it has an impact on the economy as well. We have to keep that on mind, because with the education, the one of the main focuses of the government would be to uplift the economy as well. So most of the governments would have to intervene and pump money into the financial institutions, but in return, if they could not have a big contribution to the national GDP to get it back up and running, it would have a negative impact as well for the country's economy. Hence, the governments are more focusing on the skills. So there are push and pull factors as well in South Asia as well as other parts of the world, because with the impact, many people are looking to move away from their respective countries to other Western countries as well. For this reason, even though immigration, most of the countries has closed borders, they are considering opening borders, as education is a big industry in countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand as well. So even for New Zealand itself, it's the third biggest export of them is the education, where people come from all over the world. Even though their borders will be closed until end of this year, and even most probably half of next year as well, the government is having a problem, having a big debate with the immigration, that they should open the borders for students, so the countries could get the income. So the most probably countries would be relaxing border rules to accommodate students from all over the world. But however, even though they would accommodate, there would be less research the funding all over the world. In most of the countries in Europe, like they've stopped giving PhD admission and funding for the PhD admission and other opportunities, as they do not have adequate funding for all these events. So the world is changing into a technocrats and skilled people at the moment than theoreticians just after COVID-19, because they want people to be up and running. There's a massive impact on the jobs, the education, the economy, health sector, all those areas, and people are losing jobs. And the financial crisis is a big burden the entire world is facing. With the new world order change, with the COVID-19, there's a change in the new world order also that is coming up. The same way, we need to change our education system in South Asia from the Macaulite education system introduced by the British in uh, to our parts of the world, to a more skilled and a technocratical way. For example, if you go to USA, even a humanity skilled with IT, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, etc., they would be all over. They'll be capable of doing all their work overall. But unfortunately, in our part of the world, if we focus on one subject, we'll only get the knowledge on that subject. So the universities would have to revise their curriculum in a way where the future graduates of universities could fit in to the global job markets, as it's also going to change, and uh, they should be able to cater their students to the upcoming uh, uh, jobs areas as well. So with all these things, the government has a major role to play in, as universities and the private sector institutions, research institutions. All these institutions are heavily impacted by the COVID-19, and there's less funding opportunities available. People are losing jobs. So a COVID relief package, as they say in New Zealand, has to be given, even I believe even in countries like South Asia, because people are not even getting salaries, and all those objectives are there. So the, the government has a key role to play, and I believe in the future, the universities will have to focus more on technocrats and skilled people with the education system that they have. So thank you. That's what I have to tell today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shanjavardhani sir, for your accessible way of deliberation and your thought-provoking deliberation. I'm sure that all the participants of the webinar enjoyed a lot, benefited a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for making our webinar a successful one. We hope to meet you again in the near future in our future academic endeavors also, sir. In this webinar, we'll meet you again in the interaction session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we are in the interaction session. I request Mr. Jayanta Kolita to proceed with the session. I would like to request honorable resource persons and dear participants to be a part of this session. Honorable resource person, sir.
Yes, madam.
Professor Binay Kumar Kushet, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. Just I look our chat box. We have 3 questions. I pick up 3 questions in especially to address me now. 3 questions we have. One is the students are also focusing acute problem to the connected with the online education now. So in Nepal, what are the situations? He said the questions now. What are the measures to government medicate it now? In Nepal, there are the online education classes is most failure cases, especially in Nepal now, because we already mentioned here now 20 to 30% only students have access to online classes now. I take the online classes every Sunday now, and we have 20 students, and there are 3 students to month only access to online classes. So in my case, only 20% students came to online classes. So online classes is not great panacea of the address to the our pandemic situation, especially in South Asia. But therefore, why I've suggested that there are new technology innovations introduced in our education system. It is necessary. It is the opportunity. Online and other things. So after COVID-19, then we introduced the new technology in our education system. So I should focus on this area. And blending system. I think online is okay, but our residential and another methods or techniques we should introduce now. And another is the dropout case. Another questions concern with me, the dropout case. How can we address the dropout possibility of dropout now in higher education for higher education now? So this is a bigger challenge in our higher education system, because one report I think in American report, I think the COVID-19 most of students who came from rural area and the farmer area, from farmer area, they have chance to leave their study now, because their parents are lose their job now. So government should take the provision for that students. I think in terms of scholarship, in terms of soft loan, in terms of schemes now, different type of schemes now. So students should focus to address the possible dropout in higher education. So it is the very important things now. I think there are 2 questions I concern. Okay, ma'am.
Mr. Jayanta, please proceed.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, there is another question to you. I have just collected from the YouTube channel.
Okay.
What are the reasons behind the low percentage of inclusion in higher education for SC students in Nepal?
What are the reason behind?
Can you hear me, sir?
Okay.
Yes.
I think government should not focus, or university should not focus in inclusion policy now in our higher education, especially higher education, because lot of talent, lot of intellectuals, talents groups is in the special camp from the Dalit social class and other things. They are escape of the higher education now. They have escaped higher education now. So government should focus in especially in India, there are a lot of scholarship. In Nepalese case, there are no scholarship for scheduled classes or the girls for another thing. So there most strategic plan, we should develop a strategic plan, and in this plan we should mention the government take their take their model now, so develop their model now to address the inclusion now. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. There is a question to our madam. What type of initiatives should be taken to avoid dropout students, particularly from the lower socioeconomic background due to this lockdown?
For which of hurdles, madam?
Yes, yes. See, the thing is that if we look in the specific perspective of the pandemic, I don't think so that there are any initiative schemes so far for that. But definitely the MHRD has a number of schemes for students belonging to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward castes and minorities, and even for students who are coming from Jammu and Kashmir. So we have got a large number of schemes. Yes, the question again arises that many of these students are not even aware of, you know, the availability of these schemes, but there are institutional nodal officers and who are there to support these. So I think if a student is availing a scholarship, and then, you know, he may not be a burden on the family as such. The person may not be a burden on the family, and the chances that the person is dropping out are reduced. Also, there is a possibility now in case of you know, there are some universities which allow credit transfers, right? UGC has introduced a channel, a special scheme. I'm sure many of you must be knowing there are SWAYAM courses. There is a portal called SWAYAM, which is an initiative of the MHRD, and that allows students to opt for open courses. That is called massive online open courses, called MOOCs. These are open courses, these are free of cost, and the student can opt for the course, appear for the exam, and the credits which are given are recognized all over the country, right? So these are recognized courses which the student can take the credit for, and therefore there should not be a need for, you know, dropping out of college or dropping out of academics just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, madam. There is another question from Zuridas. I have just collected from YouTube. Most of the university has taken decision to passing the students without examination. Will it be not affect in their near future?
Of course, but I think it is not that the students are being promoted without examination. Because most of the universities, they are having the examination as for the last UGC regulation guidelines which have come in for the terminal semester and the years. The examinations are going to happen. We all are aware of that. UGC has given clear directions on that no student will be allowed to get the degree without examination. And for the intermediate, that is the first and the second year, or the you know, the first year of the postgraduate also, they will be promoted based on the results of the previous semester. So there is an internal assessment component and their performance of the previous semester. So I think even if for one semester, because this is going to be for only this semester, and we are all hoping that things will, you know, get to normal by the time the next semester examinations come in December, January, or maybe a little delayed. So I think that should not make much of a difference, because if we talk about undergraduate, in 5 semesters the student is going to give the proper exam, and the one exceptional semester they are still going to be marked on the assessments, internal assessments, and different universities are devising different mechanism. So I don't think so that it should be that much of a worry, because how much effect does one semester result make on an overall 3-year course? So I think the teachers, the universities are devising, I can talk about University of Delhi. We are not promoting any students without any kind of assessment. We are going to assess even the first and the second year students on internal assessment and their assignments which they are being submitting to us. So I think it should not be a problem. Yeah.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Now I request Dhoniram Borgohai to allow the participants who are raising their hands to ask question directly.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Dhoniram?
Yes.
Yeah, allow the participants who are raising their hands to ask question directly to allow them to unmute themselves.
Yes.
I have not seen more questions in the chat box relating to the topic, so I request the participants to raise your hands to ask the questions directly.
Bhagmita Soitia, please unmute your button. They are not responding. Anamika Kolita.
Yes. Hello.
Anamika
Yes,
Kolita.
yes.
Okay. Anamika Kolita, you can ask questions to our resource person.
Hello.
Yes, madam, we are listening.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And it is a very energetic and very informative session. And I'm very glad to participate as a candidate or as a participate in this platform. Thank you, everyone, for that. Here, my question is, where we are talking about equality, where we are talking about giving equal educational opportunity to everyone. So here, sometimes the students of general category, they sometimes actually suffer because. Hello, are you listening?
Yes, madam.
Yes. So sometimes in spite of having good marks, good point, due to this category system which was which is included in our constitution, so that this system actually now greatly having a very negative effect on the students who belongs to a general category. So in this regard, I want some kind of viewpoint from respected resource persons. How can we overcome, or what should how can the general category students should overcome this kind of barriers? Now it's becoming like a barrier for general category student. Yes.
Dr. Jain, do you want me to answer this?
Yes, sir, sure. Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Hi, Anamika.
Yes.
Thank you for putting this question. See, the thing is that we need to understand this in the larger context and larger perspective. It is not just about whether a reservation is given to one category of students or not. The thing is that there are certain affirmative actions which you need to give to certain sections of the society, which the state has to give to certain sections of the society in order to maintain a parity, in order to bring a balance, in order to bring some sort of equilibrium among the different stakeholders. So I think reservation is also an affirmative step which is being taken by the government of India, especially in case of, I'm talking about Indian context, because so that the deprived should not be more deprived and the empowered should not be more empowered. Right. So similarly, see, we are women, right? You and me are women, right? And we also there are so many questions, there are so many demands that there should be 33% reservation for women in the parliament, and there should be reservation. Even we demand a reservation in the bus and the metro. Why do we demand that? Of course, we are infringing on the rights of the male members who are traveling in the public transport with us. But that is again an affirmative step to ensure that the life for the women becomes more, the women become more empowered, the life for them becomes a little better because of the prevailing circumstances which are not so conducive for the development and the social structure of India. The social structure of India really needs, you can see multiple examples in your vicinity where reservation has definitely helped people come out of the vicious circle of poverty, illiteracy, and underprivilegedness. So I think these are affirmative actions which are taken, and we all have to be a part of this initiative. And definitely everything has a pro and a con. So economically weaker section, now there is another reservation for EWS students, economically weaker students, the students who are coming from economically weaker sections. So again, that is also an action which is being taken to bring some sort of, give them equal opportunity, give equal opportunity to all sections of the society in general. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Bagmita Sweetya, but she is not responding.
Bagmita Soikia is raising her hand. Respected participants, if you have any query more, then please raise your hand so that our host can allow you to unmute yourself.
Aparna Das, please unmute. Aparna Das. Mampi Das, please unmute your. They raise your hand, but they are not responding.
Yes. So time is already over. Our interaction session time is over. Due to time constraint, we cannot move forward this session.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Mampi Das.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question to Pavitra ma'am. First of all, hello, hearing, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes,
please carry on.
Okay. So first of all, good afternoon to all the respected teachers, and I'm very grateful to all of you. That's such a beautiful webinar that you have participated, that you have kept for us. And through this webinar, we came to know many things, and which is very informative for us. So now I have a question to Pavitra ma'am. That ma'am, actually I'm belonging from the rural society. So in the rural society now, due to this pandemic, now many students are unable to, means they are very poor. They belong to very poor families. Someone has not got the mobile phone. So because nowadays exam, everything is going through online teaching. So everything. So ma'am, I have a question that what should we do during this pandemic so that we can help our many economically background people, no, ma'am? So should I, how should I help them? If I get the answer, then it will be benefited for our rural society peoples, children, ma'am.
That's very nice, Miss Mampi, and I appreciate your concern and your willingness to help the people around you who are not as empowered and as able as you are. So that's a very good thing on your part. I congratulate you for your responsibility. See, the thing is that, of course, we have all these limitations, that there are certain people who do not have even one single smartphone in the entire family. But if you will, if you try to search, there are common service centers, right? Common service centers are there. This is an initiative of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology of India. And I think in all, even in the smallest of towns, if you will look in the vicinity, which is the closest town, or which is the closest, a little bigger village also, most of these, there are common service centers which are located, and these service centers, they are equipped with computers. They have a reasonable broadband internet service, and there is one person also to help you in accessing that. So what you can do is, you can find out which are the common service centers around your place, around the different villages, and you can help these students connect to those, so that at least they can, once or twice a week, they can go to the service centers. And of course, this is government, so they don't have to pay anything for the services there, so they can access this. Then there are e-mitra schemes also, which are there in the panchayats. So, different bodies are there, and if they are not giving you proper support, then you can always put in a complaint to the district magistrate that, the common service center is not providing us these services, because it has been mandated by the UGC that in this time of the pandemic, all common service centers, they cannot deny students entry. They cannot say that no, you cannot come in. They have to maintain proper hygiene and safety of the students, and they have to provide internet access to the students who are appearing for the exams or who are wanting to study. So this is one alternative that you can do. The other thing is that if it is possible, you can ask the students to download and take a photocopy or make the notes, kind of a things. You have to develop some kind of mechanism. But I think the most feasible and viable would be accessing the 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 community service, easily accessible alternatives out of for the rural people. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
Guneshwar Dekar, you can ask question. Dr. Guneshwar Dekar, you listen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm myself, Dr. Guneshwar Dekar from Mayanganchali College. Actually, I have got this answer, which is I have been wanting. Actually, ma'am, you please point out some important notes to encourage the students. This is my question.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Can you repeat?
I want some important points from you to encourage the students during COVID-19, this situation.
You mean mentoring the students? Are you meaning mentoring?
I think
Not,
question from you, madam.
Not mentoring, ma'am. Encouraging.
Yeah. Okay. See, I would like to add one thing, that I am not a specialist in this domain of counseling and mental well-being of the students. But yes, from my experience, I can always tell you that communication is the most important tool which we all need to keep open. If a student can communicate with us, if a student feels the faith that she can share with the teacher what she is going through at a personal or at an academic level, then that is very important. Because most of the time what we are seeing, that these students of these particular age groups, because they are all adults whom we are talking about, so they what they need is somebody to befriend them and somebody to think with them and give them a solution. So we, instead of while we are mentoring or while we are talking to them, we should befriend them, and we should try to win them over with this. And another thing is that as a teacher, what we are doing here, what we are trying to practice is that we are trying to organize Google Meets, or we are trying to organize informal sessions. Maybe a small group WhatsApp call can be done, so that the students can interact with each other, don't feel let alone So these are very simple things, you know. A WhatsApp call for 5 students can be done. You know, a group call can be done between 5 students. If there is some student who doesn't have, you can just simply give a simple call and ask for them. We've seen reports coming from college principals who are actually visiting some of these students' houses and seeing, ensuring that they are safe, they are fine if they are not, you know. So this kind of interpersonal, I think this is the time of where we have to show the maximum compassion and empathy towards our students. So I think that that has to be an important element. Besides just teaching and using technology, we can use this technology for building a connect with our students. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Dhoniram Borgohai, our session time is already over, so I request not to give any permission to ask questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you so much, all the resource persons, for your very informative, insightful, and thought-provoking speech. And we, the Masbat College fraternity, appreciate and grateful to you for sharing your wisdom and compelling thoughts with all of us. And I hope we will meet you again in another future discourses. So now I request Dr. Manasi Borgohai, Madam, to carry forward the remaining part of the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jayanta. Due to time limitation, we have to end the session. And so sorry for that, dear participants. Now I would like to thank our honorable resource persons and dear participants for making the session a very nice, very interactive and fruitful one. Thank you, dear participants and honorable keynote speaker, sir, Professor Dilwar Hussain, sir, Professor Binoy Kumar Koshiyat, sir, Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, madam, and I would also want to thank Mr. Ishan Jayavardhana, sir, also. Now, I would like to request Mr. Niranjan Bora, Assistant Professor, Department of Anthropology, to offer vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. Niranjan Bora.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going for the last part of webinar, that is vote of thanks. At the very outset, we'd like to convey our thanks and gratitude to Dr. Sanjeevananda Borgohai sir, Principal, Nandalal Borgohai City College, Assam, India, and Chairman, Webinar Organizing Committee, for his warm welcome address and for extending all possible help and support in organizing this international webinar. Thank you. Secondly, we offer our sincere thanks and gratitude to Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sharma sir, Principal, Masbat College, Udalguri, Assam, India, for his welcome speech of today's international webinar. Your presence and cooperation in organizing the webinar really encourage us a lot. Thank you again, sir. We convey our vote of thanks as well as gratitude to Professor Dilwar Hussain sir, Professor International Relations and Higher Education, Dhaka University, Bangladesh, keynote addressers today's international webinar. Professor Hussain sir has wonderfully highlighted upon the seminal issues and key as a post-pandemic higher education approaches and way forward. Once again, thank you, Hussain sir. We convey our special thanks and gratitude to Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, Madam, Head of Department Computer Science, Jesus and Mary College, New Delhi, India, for her encouraging and resourceful deliberations on today's topic and highlighted different issues and challenges on the present-day pandemic situations and how to come out the present situation. Thank you, Madam, for your lively participations in our webinar. We look forward in all eagerness to have you with us in future academic activities. We would like to offer our sincere thanks and gratitude to Dr. Ehsan Jayawardene, Senior Research Fellow, New Zealand, for his expert deliberations on post-pandemic higher education approaches and way forward. Thank you, sir. Your enthusiastic participations in this international webinar, we eagerly look forward to have with you us in the near future. Thank you, sir. We would like to extend our thanks and gratitude to Dr. Anjan Soikia, sir, Principal, Namora College of Assam, India, for his kind support and possible help in organizing this international webinar. We look forward to have you with us in our future academic activities. Thank you again, sir. We convey our sincere thanks to all the participants for their actions and enthusiastic participation in this international webinar. We also take this opportunity to thank the special participants from various corners of the world. Your participation in the webinar has added to place to it. We eagerly look forward to all our respected participants to be with us in our future academic activities. We would like to offer our thanks Dr. Manasi Gogoi Borgohai Baido, Vice Principal and Coordinator IQS in Nandalal Borgohai City College and Coordinator Webinar for her wholehearted dedications in organizing this webinar. We also offer our special thanks to Mr. Jayanta Kolita, sir, Head of Department Education, Masbat College, Udalguri, Assam, India, and co-coordinator of today's webinar for his possible support and wholehearted dedication in organizing webinar a grand success. Last but not least, our special thanks goes to Mr. Dhoniram Borgohai, sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Nandalal Borgohai City College, for his sincere help and cooperation for the webinar a grand success. With these few words, I conclude my vote of thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Niranjan Bara. Now, we are at the end of the international webinar on post-pandemic higher education approaches and way forward. On behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of all the members of Nandalal Borgohai City College family, Dibrugarh, Assam, India, I also want to express our deep sense of gratitude once again that we will remain ever grateful to all of you, Honorable Keynote Speaker, Professor Dilwar Hossain Shah, Honorable Resource Person, Professor Binay Kumar Bharadwaj sir, Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj Madam, Mr. Ishan Jayawardene sir, and all the 4,720 valued participants joining from different countries of the world for making our webinar a wonderful, interactive, and successful one, and for making our humble effort to gather all the people of the globe in the same platform become true. We hope to meet you again in the online platform and a very near future in the offline mode also in the context of our never-ending academic journey. If we think of the opportunities and challenges during the worldwide pandemic, I think this is the opportunity of the period that many intellectual people can gather in the same platform. So I wish to continue our never-ending academic journey all together. We wish to go forward hand in hand to make our future academic endeavors also successful. Hope to meet you all again. Thank you once again. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you all, dear participants. Now, over to Mr. Jayanta Kolita.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Okay.
Formally close up the session.
Thank you, madam. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Yes.
Thank you, all the resource persons and respected keynote speaker and all the esteemed participants who are joining with us from different parts of the globe. Once again, I thanks you all. And one declaration that another international webinar is going to be held on tomorrow, on the topic, the books which you must read before you die. I'd like to announce the topic again. The books which must be read before you die. This is the next topic of our international webinar, which is going to be held from my department and in association with KBR College. So all the participants are requested to join with us, and already 4,000 participants has registered their name to attend this international webinar. Once again, I request all the esteemed participants which are joining with us today that we have shared the feedback link. Please go through it and fill up the feedback link accordingly, and your participation certificate will be issued within a week. Thank you. With this warm word,